Begin today the Gemara towards the bottom of Daf Samach Vav Amud Beis. I think it's 7 lines up from the bottom of the Amud where it says Umi Maide Rabbi Yosi. So what the Gemara is speaking about over here is a person that's appointing people to be the shluchim for him to write a get. So the lashon that he told them was Kisvu Tnu, write a get and give the get to my wife. So the Gemara had a suffix. What does it mean when he says Kisvu? Does Kisvu mean that the get should be signed, that they have to sign the get, but they can give a cipher to write the get? Or no, they have to write the get themselves. They can't give anyone else to write the get. So the Gemara before brought that Shmuel said, Hadavat Tzarich Talmud. This is a matter that we have to look into. He had a suffix about this. So the Gemara's question was, why did Shmuel have any suffix about this? Shmuel is the one that says that when it comes to shlichus, there's a concept called mili loy mimsaron l'shliach. You can't give over words to another shliach, meaning the first shliach, if he has a physical get in his hands, that means he's a real shliach. He's taking the place of the husband, and just like the husband himself could appoint a shliach, this first shliach could also appoint a second shliach. But if you don't have a get in your hands, the husband just tells these eidim, you go ahead and write a get for me or give a get for me. So then, because they're not on the same level of a regular shliach, they're going to have to do that themselves. They can't appoint anyone else. So if the husband says to the shluchim, kisvu tnu, it should be simple that they have to do it themselves. Why did Shmuel have any suffix about this? So the Gemara explained because when the husband said kisvu, it's not clear what he meant by kisvu. Kisvu could mean that he's telling them that you should just sign your signatures on this get, or kisvu could mean that you should actually write the get. If when he said kisvu, all he meant is you should sign the get, then the Gemara suggested to say that we could say that the husband is making it clear, I want you to tell a cipher to write the get. And then in such a case, the Gemara said, even Rabbi Yosi, which is the source of this concept of mili loy mimsaron l'shliach, that a shliach can't give over to someone else to write if they don't have the physical get in their hands. But if the husband is telling the shluchim, you go and tell someone else to write the get, so then they have the ability to tell someone else to write the get. That's what the very shlichus consists of, to tell someone else to write the get. So over here, if we're going to say that all the husband told them by saying kisvu is sign the get, so then the actual writing of the get, that they could tell someone else to write. That was the Gemara's conclusion here. In such a case, Rav Yosi's Maida. On this, the Gemara is going to ask from a Mishnah later in the Masechta, where there's a concern about who is going to be signing this get, or who's going to be writing this get, or really when they get to signing, there's a concern about who's going to be signing this get, and therefore it's going to be a question on this halacha. Okay, let's learn inside. Is it true that Rabbi Yosi admits and holds that there is a case where the shluchim appointed could go and tell someone else to write the get? But if that's true, or to write the get, or they can even go and tell someone else to write the get. If the husband tells them, go and tell someone else to sign the get, they can go and tell someone else to do so. But if that's the case, then we're going to have a problem with this Mishnah here. The Mishnah says, Ksav Sefer ve'eid kosher. If you have a get that simply it means it was written by a Sefer, and there's only one aid that signed it, so then it's kosher. Even though a get needs to have 2 witnesses that signed it, but if you just have the writing of the Sefer and one aid, it's already kosher. Now, that Mishnah, V'omer Rabbi Yirmiyah explained the pshat in this. Chsam Sefer Shaninu. When it says in that Mishnah Ksav Sefer, it doesn't mean that the Sefer wrote it, but it actually means that the Sefer wrote the get and he signed it. So you actually have 2 signatures on this get. The signature of the Sefer and the signature of one more aid. Now, V'omer Rav Chisda says, Masnisan Mani, who's that Mishnah going according to? Rabbi Yosi. It's going according to Rabbi Yosi. The Amar, Rabbi Yosi says, Mili loy mimsaron l'shliach. Words cannot be given over to a shliach, meaning the one that's signing the get must have heard it from the husband himself, and only then does he sign the get. You never have a situation where someone signs the get because someone tells him, the husband told me to sign the get, but I'm giving over to you that you should sign the get. Or I'm giving you over, the husband told me to tell you to sign the get. No such a thing. According to Rabbi Yosi, the person that's signing the get must have heard it from the husband himself, and therefore he signed the get. Now, why is that so important to know that the one that's signing it heard it from the husband himself? So here, before we read the Gemara inside, the Gemara is going to explain, when you have the Sefer himself signing the get, there could be a concern that maybe the Sefer ends up signing the get even though the husband did not tell him to. He did not tell him to sign the get. He didn't necessarily want him to sign the get. Why is that? Because imagine the Sefer is writing the get, and he's done writing the get, and then he sees that they're bringing in other Eidim to sign the get. The Sefer says to himself, wait a minute, why are they bringing other Eidim to sign the get? Why can't I sign the get? They don't trust my signature? I'm not kosher enough to sign this get. So the fact that the Sefer could get embarrassed from this is a reason why they may tell the Sefer to write the get, even though the husband didn't tell the Sefer directly to sign the get. So not to embarrass him. That's the svara the Gemara says here. The point over here is, there's a concern that someone may end up signing the get, even though the husband didn't tell him to. And especially that's true by a Sefer. By a Sefer, which is writing the whole get, and now you're not even letting him sign it, he may especially be wondering, why am I not signing the get? So therefore, the Gemara says here that Rav Chisda said, it must be that nobody signs a get unless the husband tells him directly. So we don't have to be concerned that the Sefer is going to be wondering, why am I not signing the get if I'm writing the whole get? Because the husband didn't tell him to. So therefore we're not concerned about such a thing. So now the Gemara asks, now if you're going to say, that Rav Yosi does agree that there is a situation where someone could sign a get even if the husband did not tell him directly. If the husband tells the shluchim, you go and tell someone else to sign the get. So then they have that power to tell someone else to write the get and to sign the get. If so, in this case where the Sefer is writing the get and then he signs it, nafik min churba. This could be something which will be a big problem for the signing of a get, because the zimnin, it could be that the case over here was that what the husband had actually said was, imru l'Sefer v'yichtav, let the Sefer write the get, but uleploini v'yachtemu. But I only trust so and so to be the Eidim to sign this get. What ends up happening? But mishum kisufa the Sefer, because the Sefer himself, they don't want him to be embarrassed. Why is he writing the get? And then they have to invite other Eidim to sign. Chayshi, so the people that were appointed by the husband to take care of this matter, so they're concerned about the embarrassment of the Sefer. And they have one of those people that the husband asked to sign this get, and the Sefer along with this one Eidir. And the husband didn't say this. So again, the point of the Gemara's question is, Rabbi Yirmiyah came and explained that when you have the signature of the Sefer, the reason why we're not concerned that anything went wrong is because if you see a get that the Sefer signed it and another Ein signed it, it must be that the husband himself told the Sefer to sign it. Because everybody knows you can't sign a get unless the husband tells you clearly to sign it. But if we're going to say now that Rabbi Yosi agrees that there is a situation where the husband doesn't tell you and still you could sign it, so when you see a signature of a Sefer, it could very well be that the Sefer just wrote it and then he ended up signing it also because he didn't want to embarrass the Sefer and they just allowed him to finish the whole thing and to sign. Shouldn't we be concerned about such a thing? So what is Rabbi Yirmiyah gaining by saying that we're going according to Rabbi Yosi? Even according to Rabbi Yosi, this could be a problem. So the Gemara answers and says,
in regular case, the way it is today, a Sefer could sign.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but that's if the husband is telling the Sefer to sign the get.
I mean, today the rabbi makes it.
Okay, so the Gemara says, and for the Gemara, in this case that we just said here, that we're concerned that what the husband said is not what actually happened. Mm-hmm. Again, what did the husband say? The husband says to his shluchim, I want you to hire a Sefer, and I want you to find these two people, Pliny and Pliny, to sign it. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what the husband said. And instead, the Sefer signs it. So the Gemara says, such a case, Kivin Da'amamar, since the master has said, and we'll see this here later in the Yomad, that kosher, that a get, if you would listen to exactly what the husband said, and you would have the Sefer write it, and you would have these other Eidim sign it, it's kosher. But v'loi tasa can be Yisrael. This should not be done so. And the Gemara will explain later why not. When the husband tells these shluchim, we want you to find other Eidim to sign this get. Not you should sign it yourself, but the husband wants these shluchim to find other Eidim to sign it. The Gemara will later explain that could cause problems. We want the people that the husband spoke to sign it. So since it is kosher, but it's not supposed to be done this way, so therefore leishchiach. This is not going to end up happening. A husband is not going to ask two shluchim to ask someone else to write the get. So if this is not shchiach, so therefore when we see the signature of the sefer, we don't have to be worried that the husband asked someone else to sign the get. Okay, so therefore that's not a problem. But the Gemara continues and asks, but still, when you see the signature of a sefer, it still could very well be that the sefer was not asked to write and sign the get. Why? We still could be concerned that what happened over here is, maybe the husband told two people. Okay, you can't write a get, you're not a sefer, so tell the sefer to write a get. But but you yourselves, the ones that the husband is speaking to, he's telling them, you sign the get. Not the husband says to them, find other two people to sign. No, he's telling them, you sign the get. And now what happens? These two people that the husband spoke to, they go and they tell the sefer to write the get. But then mishum kisufa the sefer, they don't want the sefer to be embarrassed. Why? The sefer thinks to himself, why can't I sign it? And the sefer signs the get as well, together with one of these people here that the husband spoke to. But the husband didn't say that this should be done this way. The husband said, I want you two to sign the get. So when you see a signature of a sefer together with one more person, there could be something fishy here. Maybe they had the sefer sign the get, even though the husband never spoke to the sefer. So the Gemara says the answer was given to this concern as well. The Hanami, this case as well, kosher v'loy tasahu. It is kosher. If the husband says to these two people, you sign the get, and the sefer will write the get, this is also kosher. But even in this case, as the Gemara will later explain, l'chatchila, it shouldn't be done. Now regarding this case, why it shouldn't be done, the Gemara will soon explain, we'll see. But the emes is, even regarding this case, there's an argument, if there's a problem with this. So now the Gemara explains, the answer you're giving is an adequate answer according to that opinion that says that l'chatchila this shouldn't be done. So when we see a signature of a sefer, we don't have to be concerned that this happened. But another opinion says that in such a case, where the husband tells these shluchim, you sign the get, and they're signing it. So then such a thing, l'chatchila, is not a problem. So then what are we going to say? Again, the point of the Gemara's question is, when Rabbi Yirmiyah explained, when you see the signature of a sefer, you don't have to be concerned that the husband didn't speak to the sefer directly and he still signed the get, even though someone else was supposed to sign it. Why don't you have to be concerned for that? Because Rabbi Yossi holds that only who the husband spoke to directly, he signs the get, nobody else signs the get. But based on what we're saying here, Rabbi Yossi actually holds that it's possible that the sefer signed the get, even though the husband didn't speak to him directly. And the husband wanted someone else to sign the get. Right? Why? Because we're saying Rabbi Yossi agrees in a case of Oyme Imru, meaning that if the husband says to Shluchim, you tell someone else to sign, such a thing is possible. They could tell someone else to sign. So therefore over here, it is possible that the husband may have told these Shluchim, here, have these Eidim sign, and instead we see a signature of one sefer with one aid, which is very interesting. It's not usual to have one sefer and one aid, and it's very possible the reason is because they didn't want the sefer to be embarrassed, and therefore he signed. So why does the Mishnah say that such a get is kosher? So therefore the Gemara concludes after all of this, Ela Rabbi Yossi Tarti Omar. Rabbi Yossi himself actually said 2 points. What are the 2 points? The 2 points that we mentioned before. Number one, Rabbi Yossi said that in general, there's a concept called Mili Loi Mimsar al Shliach, that if Eidim, Shluchim, get a Shlichis to write a get, they can't give that over to someone else. But then Rabbi Yossi himself said an additional point. Even if the husband clearly says to the Shluchim, you go and appoint someone else to sign the get or to write the get, still they can't appoint someone else to write the get. Rabbi Yossi said it, there's no case. Whoever is signing or writing a get had to have heard it from the husband himself, which is a very big chiddush. I mean, the Rishonim discussed this. Why not? Why? I mean, there's a concept of shluchish ladon kamaisai. Why, if the husband tells beferish a shliach, go tell someone else to write the get? Why can't they tell someone else to write the get? So some Rishonim say that this is a unique chiddush only by a get. By shluchis in general, Rabbi Yossi would hold oime imru that you could tell someone else, but by a get, when the Torah writes the kosav that the husband has to write the get, so only the one that the husband speaks to directly could go and write the get for him. Not a shliach can't go and appoint someone else. So that's Rabbi Yossi's own opinion. So therefore, over there in that Mishnah, when you see a sefer sign the get together with someone else, we have no concern. We know that the husband spoke to him. But a Shmuel, on the other hand, Shmuel himself, Savala Kavasei B'chada, he agreed to Rabbi Yossi only regarding one point, and that is that in a usual case we say Mili le'mimsur al shliach, that shluchim cannot give over their shlichus to someone else to write a get, but upalig alei b'chada. But in a different case, though, if the husband specified clearly and said, I want you to tell someone else to write the get, then the shluchim could tell someone else to write the get. On that, Shmuel argued. And therefore, going back to the case that we had before, when a husband tells the shluchim, kisfu tnu, if the kisfu there meant that all I want you to do is to sign the get, so we understand that what the husband was saying is, but the writing of the get, you should tell a sefer to write. So Shmuel had a suffix about that. Shmuel said that in that case, maybe the sefer writing the get is kosher. If we're going to say that kisfu, all kisfu meant that they should sign the get. Or maybe kisfu actually meant that they have to write the get. So Shmuel could have a suffix about this because Shmuel holds in a case of oime imru, when the husband clearly tells the shluchim, tell someone else to write the get, then they could appoint someone else to write the get. Talk to Gemara Gufe here to bring back this halacha itself, the source of what we brought before, what Shmuel said. Omar Shmuel, Shmuel said, Omar Rebbe, in the name of Rebbe, halacha Rabbi Yossi. We passed like Rabbi Yossi, the Omar that said, Mili loy mimsaran l'shliach, that if someone is hired or asked by a husband to write a get, he can never give that over to someone else. Now the chiddush of Rabbi Yossi was, and that's even in a case where the people that the husband spoke to are a bezdin. Even a bezdin can't hire someone else to write the get. They're going to have to do it. They are the ones that heard it from the husband. They have to do it themselves. Amulafan of Rab Shimon Berebi, Rab Shimon the son of Rebbe said,
in case they can't do it, they don't know how to write it.
So it's a problem. They're going to have to, before the Mishnah said, if they can't write, they're going to have to learn how to write. They're going to have to do it themselves. So Rab Shimon the son of Rebbe said, why are we passing like Rabbi Yossi? Mi'acha Rab Meir v'Chanina ish oinoi. If Rab Meir and Rab Chanina Chelkan on Rabbi Yossi, they both argued on Rabbi Yossi. So Mara Rabbi Loima Alocha Rabbi Yossi. So what did Rabbi see to paskin dafka like Rabbi Yossi and not like Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Chanina? Amaloi. So he answered him. Rabbi answered his son, Shtoik b'ni shtoik. My son, be quiet. Don't question the fact that I'm paskin like Rabbi Yossi. Leira Isa is Rabbi Yossi. You never saw Rabbi Yossi in your lifetime. El Mali Reisai. If you would have seen him, you would have understood that Rabbi Yossi, whenever he said something, he had his reasoning with him, and we pass him like Rabbi Yossi. And here the Gemara brings a very interesting braisa that tells us about the greatness of various different Tanoim. So the Tanya learned in the braisa, Isi ben Yehuda, Isi ben Yehuda counted the praise of various sages. Rab Meir, he said about Rab Meir Chacham. Rab Meir was a Chacham, which Chacham means not only wise, but it also a chacham v'sefer, as it says here. He was a chacham and he was also a scribe. He wrote Sifrei Torah and mezuzahs and so on. Rabbi Yehuda was a chacham l'kisha yirtzeh. Rabbi Yehuda was a chacham when he wanted to be. What does that mean, a chacham when he wanted to be? So Rashi says when he was in a situation where he was calm, relaxed, so he was able to learn and explain things masan or masik very deeply. Rab Tarfon was like a gal shel hagoyzen. Rab Tarfon explained things like a pile of walnuts. What's a pile of walnuts? When you have a pile of walnuts and you pull one out, it all falls down. Same thing, Rab Tarfon. When you asked him a question, he showered you with so many answers. He gave you an answer from the Chumash, from a Medrash, from Halacha. He gave you a bunch of answers, and it was like a pile of nuts. Rabbi Shmuel, Chanus miyuzenes. Rabbi Shmuel, when you asked him a question, so it was like a storekeeper that has all the items prepared and he has it right away prepared to answer you. When you asked Rabbi Shmuel a question, so he right away had everything prepared for you to answer right away. Rabbi Akiva was compared to an oitzer bolum, like a huge storehouse. And so Rashi explains the mile of Rabbi Akiva was that he learned from his teachers many different things, and it was all sort of learned and taught them together. And then, like a person that gathers different produce from the field and brings it into the storehouse, and then in the storage house you make a seder where everything belongs, where the wheat goes, where the barley goes, where other produce goes. So Rabbi Akiva was able to take everything and make a beautiful seder in his learning. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, kupas harechlem. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is like a peddler that has his merchandise ready to sell, and everything is ready in its place to sell. So Rashi says Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri was not like Rabbi Akiva that was able to take things that he was taught together and make a seder in them, but he had it all set up for him. Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah, kupashol besamim. It's like someone that sells different spices, different besamim, and he has it all set up. So kupashol besamim, Rashi says, is not as great as the level of kupas hareichlim. Kupas hareichlim is someone that has a lot of different minim and he has it all prepared. Kupashol besamim, not mamish on that level. Mishnas Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, that whatever halachas Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov taught is kav v'noki. So kav means it was a small measure. There's not a lot of halachas we have from him, but what he did teach is noki, is very pure, and therefore we paskin always like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Yosi, and this is what we brought this all for, nimuka yimai. Whenever Rabbi Yosi said a halacha, he had very good reasoning backing up what he said. And therefore we paskin like Rabbi Yosi. Rab Shimon, toichen harbe, Rab Shimon would grind a lot, umaitzi kima, and would let out a little. Now, what does that mean? It sounds like in the negative, but the Gemara clarifies right away. It means in the positive. Tana, we learned about this. What it means is mishakeach kima. He would forget a little. Everything he ground, everything he learned and had, he kept, he retained, but he forgot a little. But now, what does it mean he forgot a little? Umasha maitzi, this that he let out of him, ein maitzi el subin. It was only that, the shmutz, or the chaff that he didn't need, meaning things that the halacha wasn't like, so that he forgot. Rab Shimon said to his students, Banai, my children, Shnu midaisai, learn from my midas. Rashi here says midaisai means learn from my taira. Because midaisai, my taira, trumais midais of Rabbi Akiva. I took and I selected the best of what Rabbi Akiva already selected. We said before, Rabbi Akiva was like a Eitze Balam that he selected and put everything in their place. So he came and selected even better, and therefore you should learn from my taira. Here the Gemara comes back to what was mentioned before on the Amud regarding a situation where a husband is appointing a shliach, and what is he telling them? So there were two scenarios we had before. One was when the husband tells these shluchim that you should have a sefer right to get, and then appoint these shluchim to sign the get. So he's not telling the shluchim themselves to sign the get. Appoint someone else to sign the get. What that means is that the ones that are going to sign the get never heard it from the husband themselves. So here the Gemara is going to bring the halacha that this is a problem. So here's this halacha itself. Person, the husband tells two people, Imru l'seifer, tell a seifer to write a get, v'yichtayv, or l'ploini v'yachtmu, and then go ask so-and-so to sign the get. Amar Ravuna Ravuna says in the name of Rav, kosher. So if you follow what the husband says, it'll be kosher, but v'leitas is Yisrael. You shouldn't have this done by Yidden. So Amalei Ula Rav Nachman, Ula asked Rav Nachman about this. V'amri lo Rav Nachman lo Ula, or the reverse. Rav Nachman asked Ula about this. Nayacha the kosher. If this is okay, so Amalei Tasas Eis B'Yisrael. Why did Rav say that this should not be done? Amalei, so he answered him, because if the people that are signing never heard anything from the husband himself, Chayshinan were concerned that Shema Tisker Edim, maybe the wife that's desperate to be divorced will hire Edim. That, in other words, she'll hire people that should go and tell another two people, you go and sign the get. And they will lie. They will go and say, the husband told us to tell you to sign the get. And really, it's the wife that paid them off to go and tell these people to sign the get. So therefore, we need the Eidim to hear it directly from the husband himself. So there's no room for foul play here. But are we concerned that such a thing could happen? Are we concerned for this? We learned in the Braisa. If you have Eidim that we see their signatures on a property that was acquired by someone, or Valget Isha, these Eidim themselves, they're the ones that signed on this get for a wife. Chachamim were not concerned that maybe the Eidim that signed it are liars and they just signed it and did it for their own benefit. And therefore the Gemara there says that if these Eidim that signed this property, this document for this property, if they now want to go and buy it from this person that shows this star that he owns it, they can buy it from him. And we're not concerned, these Eidim forged these signatures for him. In other words, they just wrote a document that it's his, even though it's not his. Or the same thing with a get Isha. These Eidim, one of these Eidim could go and marry this woman, even though it's their signatures on this get. And you may think, their signatures on the get, and now they're going to marry her? Yeah, it's not a problem. We're not concerned that Eidim are going to sign falsely on a document. So why over here are we concerned that maybe two people are going to go and tell someone, the husband told us to tell you to sign this get? So the Gemara explains, no, this we are concerned for. Maise loyavdi. We're not concerned that two Eidim will do an action to sign a document that is a lie. But Yibure ka'amri. But maybe two, we are concerned that the two will go and say to someone else, you go and sign this get because the husband told us. They're not actually signing the get. They're not doing a maisa, which is a lie, but words, we are concerned that they may do this. Weiter the Gemara says, what's if it's a case of Ama l'shnayim? The husband says to two people, Imru l'seifer v'yichtayv.
So who says is that?
So
who says is that? Yosef or Tom?
No, this is over here, a gzeira of Rav. A gzeira of Rav that, what?
So it's like Rav Yosef kind of.
No, it's different. It's different than that. It's a gzeira here. This is a gzeira of Rav. Now the Gemara says, what's in the case where Amar l'shnayim, the husband says to two people, Imru l'seifer v'yichtayv, let the seifer write this get, and va'atam chasumu, and you two will sign it. No, so in this case, seemingly there should be no concern, because the husband's speaking directly to the Adam. He's telling them to sign it. Avchista ma kosher. Avchista says it's kosher, but nevertheless, v'loy tase. Even this should not be done. The husband himself, it has to be a case where the husband himself speaks to the sefer, or whoever, the husband says kisfu tnu, and they have to write, they have to do everything. Even this case is not good. Rabbi Babachona Amar kosher v'tase. This is kosher, this is okay, because these Adam, the husband told them to sign it. Rav Nachman Amar kosher v'loy tase. Rav Nachman says this is kosher, but it still should not be done. Rav Sheshes Amar kosher v'tase. Rav Sheshes says that it is kosher, but it should, and it could be done. Rabba Amar kosher v'loy tase. Rabba said it's kosher, but it should not be done. Rav Yosef Amar kosher v'tase. Rav Yosef says it's kosher and it could be done. Now the last two names here, Rabba and Rav Yosef, Veke, Da'apach Lahuda, are those that switch the names here, the opinions that we just said. So as Rashi explains, what should be the problem in this case? Really, there is no case with this. There's no problem with this case itself. But there is a gzeira here, because you could confuse this case with a case where the husband did not tell the Adam themselves to sign it. A case where the husband says to the Adam, tell someone else to sign it. So therefore, there were geyser on this case as well, that l'chatchila, you should not write the get when the husband says, tell the sefer to write the get. Okay, going back to what it said in the Mishnah, Amal asara kisvu get. If a person says to 10 people, write a get, so the Mishnah made a distinction if the husband specified and said kulchem or not kulchem. So here the Gemara brings a brayso that explains. Tana Rabbanan, Amal asara kisvu get, etnu leishti. Husband says to 10 people that you should write and give the get for my wife. So what happens now? Echad kaisev. He didn't mean they all have to do this. One writes al yedei kulam for all of them. But if the husband said kulchem ksuvu, all of you should write the get. So what did he mean to say? But when he added the word kulchem, he obviously doesn't mean they all write the get. You only need one person to write it. But what it means is echad kaisev b'mayim kulam. What he meant to say is one should write it with all 10 standing there with him. They all 10 should be there to make sure that the get is written. Similar, hailichu get lishti. If a husband says, deliver this get for my wife, and he's telling it to 10 people, so echad malach hayidei kulam, one of them for all of them brings the get. But if the husband specified kulchem hailichu, the husband said all of you should write the get, so then echad malach b'mayim kulam. In such a case, they all deliver the get, but they all have to travel along with this person and be there when the get is delivered to the wife. Now, the shaila was asked, what's if the case is mana oisan? The husband did not say clearly kulchem, I want all of you to be involved, but he was counting. He counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 should write the get. What does that mean? Mahu. Do we say that he meant to say all of you should write the get? That's why he counted them. Or no, he didn't say kulchem, he didn't say all of you. Ravona says mana eneka kulchem. When he's counting them, it's not similar to when he specified kulchem, all of you should write. Rabbi Yechanan Mishum Rabbi Lazar, the Mindraim Mama, Yechanan, the name of Rabbi Lazar that came from Rome, said, Mana, if he counted them, Harehu kulchem. It's like he's telling them kulchem, all of you should write the get, and then they'll all have to be present when the get is written. Rav Papa explained about this. V'loi pligi. There's no argument here. It depends what the case here is. Ha the mana kulu. In one case, the husband actually counted all the people there, but vaha the mana mikzasayu. And in another case, the husband only counted some of them that are there. Now the Gemara here explains in which case do we say that they all have to be involved and in which case not. So Amri la lahai gisa, there are some that explained it in one manner. In other words, some explain that only if the husband actually tells he counts all of them. If he counted all people there, then I say, why is he counting all of them? Because he wants all of them to be involved. But if he counted some of them and then he stopped, so then what happened is he was maybe thinking in the beginning to count all of them and that they should all be involved. But then if he stopped midway, then he sort of gave up on that. And then if any of these people that he counted did it, it's good enough. But there are others that say no, that it's the other way around. That when he counts some of them, so then I say those few that he counted, why did he count only those and not others? Because he wants dafka these to be involved. When he counts all the people in the room, so then that shows that he's just sort of counting everybody and he doesn't necessarily need everyone to be involved because he didn't specify kulchem. Now the Gemara says, asking Rav Yehuda, Have Yehuda instituted begita the kulchem regarding a get of kulchem? Now, when the Gemara uses this expression of gita the kulchem, it means a get that the husband said to people, all people in the room, write a get. But this is not talking about a situation where the husband specified kulchem. Even though the Gemara here uses the term kulchem, it's not what it means. What it means is a get where the husband said in front of many people that write a get. So now they don't all have to write it. So therefore, when you see such a get and it was said to so many people, you don't want anyone to have any concerns about this get that maybe it's possible. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda instituted that what you write, you have to write into the get that oy kulchen, oy kol chad v'chad min chayin. That what the husband meant is that either all of them could be involved and write it, or even just one writes it. And similar, if the husband said kulchen chsumu, or he didn't actually say the word kulchem. Again, this case here is not speaking about what the husband said kulchem, but he said in front of many that I want the get to be signed. So in such a case, they don't all have to sign it. So you should write into the get to specify that the husband didn't want all of them to sign it, and therefore no one should be concerned that the get is possible. So oy kulchen, or all of them could be involved with the signatures, or they could all sign. Oy kol tremen chayin, or maybe just two of you is good enough as well. And similar, oy vilu. If the husband says to deliver a get, and he's saying it in the presence of all people, so you write into the get, oy kulchan, or they could all go along to deliver the get, oy kol chad v'chad mechayin, or you even just any one of you can go and deliver the get. So like this, you write this into the get, so it's clear, everyone knows that the get is kosher. Amar Rava, but Rava says that this is not good. If you write this into the get, zimnin the goys, sometimes what could happen is part of what's being written here, it could be cut off. Goy's leila dibure, he cuts off what he's writing. Va'amar kol chayin, maybe he'll write into the get that the husband said kol chayin, all of you. And v'loyamar kol chad min chayin, and he won't write the second half of the statement that Rabbi Yehuda instituted should be written. And then v'asilif suli, people are going to be concerned and say this get is possible. They're going to see it says in the get kol chayin that the husband said all should write, and it's going to seem like it's a get that all of them had to be involved, and they weren't all involved. Elam Rava, so therefore Rava says you should write in the get in such a case, Ksuvu kol chad min chayin. Any one of you could write it. Chsumu kol trei min chayin. Any one of two of you can sign it. Avilu kol chad min chayin. Any one of you could deliver the get. You have to write this into the get without mentioning kulchen. Just write that any one of you or two of you regarding the signatures can do it, and therefore it'll be clear to everyone that the get is kosher because you don't need everyone to be involved. Hadran Halacha Eimer. This is the conclusion of the sixth Pedic of Masechta Gittin. Okay, let's begin the next Pedic. Sagt der Heilige Mishneh, Misha Achsai Kordaikis, a person that grabbed hold of him this illness of Kordaikis. What's this Kordaikis? As we'll see in the Gemara, a person that drinks a lot of wine, and especially the wine that's freshly pressed from the wine press. So then he becomes sick, and Rashi says this is a shed that takes hold of him, and he loses his mind. And he says, write a get for my wife. Or even if you said, write and give the get to my wife. So in such a mindset, he said nothing. We don't fulfill what he said. If a person said, write a get for my wife, and then he drank the wine, and now he has under this influence of the wine, and he retracts and says, don't write this get. So what he's saying now is meaningless. Now, what happens with a person, the static, a person that became mute, so he can't communicate? And they say to him, Nichtov, get, lishtacha, should we write a get for your wife? And he nods with his head, yes. So we don't know 100% if we could trust him. So we have to inspect this 3 times. Im Omar alav lav val hein hein. So we inspect him regarding something else that we know that what he's saying no is no, and what he's saying yes is yes. And then if we see that 3 times he communicates properly by nodding, so they can write and give the get to the wife based on this. Zok the Gemara, my kordaikis. What is this kordaikis that it said in the Mishnah? Omar Shmuel. So Shmuel explains the nachse chamra chadete the matzarte, that fresh wine that was just pressed bit him, meaning he drank too much of it, and he got affected by it. That's what this is. Fragt the Gemara, if that's what it is, so why is the Mishnah giving such a funny name for it? V'lisni mishanashchai yayin chadash. The Mishnah should say someone that got bitten by this new wine and he drank too much wine. Why is it calling it a kordaikis? So answers the Gemara, Hakamash Malon, the Mishnah is teaching me the Ha Rucha Kordaikis Shema, that a person that drinks too much wine and he's overcome by the spirit, its name is kordaikis. Why is the Mishnah teaching this to us? L'may nafka mina. What's the relevance? L'kameya. If you want to use an amulet to heal him, so you have to know the name of this shed to know how to prepare the amulet to heal him.
What's kameya?
It's this shed that takes hold of a person when he drinks too much wine. Says the Gemara, Ma yasuse. What is the healing for this person that drank too much wine? So what he should do is, Bisr sumke, he should take red meat, agumre, on coals, v'chamre marke, and wine that's very well diluted with water. And that, if he'll eat this and drink this wine, he'll become healed. Amar Abaya, Abaya said, Amr li aim. The mother told me, this is Abaya was raised by, his mother passed away, he was a Yasam, and so the mother that raised him, she said, L'shimshe bas yaime. If a person was overcome with a fever or a heat of one day, Kuza demaya. So then he drinks a jug of water, and that will heal him. Bas trei yaime. If it's for 2 days, sichuri. So then they should let blood from him. With a horn, you let blood from him, and that will heal him. Bas tlasa yaime. If it's already a heat or a fever that he had for 3 days, so then, like the same thing that we said before, you take bistra, sumka, agumri, you take red meat on coals, v'chamre marke, and you have this wine that's diluted in water, and this will heal you. L'shimshe atikte, if a person has already this fever for a while, so then what you have to do is as follows. Now here, all these healings that the Gemara says, it's in the times of the Gemara, but we don't know how this works and how this applies today, so don't try this at home. Leisi tarnagel to ochmase, take a black hen, v'likre shesiv erev, and cut it open lengthwise and widthwise, and then v'likleche l'mitziyisa dereishe, and this person that's ill, so shave the middle of his head, and take this hand that you cut open, place it on his head, and leave it on his head until it sticks to his head, and then let him go into water and stand in water up to his neck, until he feels faint, and then he should swim, and he should come out of the water and sit down, and this will heal him. Now, if he doesn't have this available, this black hen that we're talking about here, then lechol karti, let him eat leek, and then let him do similar. Let him sit in the water until his neck, until he feels like he's fainting, and then he should swim, and he should come out and sit down. Now the Gemara comes back to what it said before. What did we say? L'shimshe bistre sumke. L'shimshe, if a person has overcome with a heat or fever, then bistre sumke agumri, so you take the red meat on coals, or v'chamre marke, and the diluted wine. But now, flitlage, if a person became sick because of snow, or it means because of cold, and so you got a cold, so then what do? Bistre shmeine. For this, you have to take fat meat, agumri, on coals, and v'chamre chaya. And you have to take pure wine, not diluted wine, and you drink this will heal you. So here the Gemara brings a story that happened. Rav Amram Chasida, Rav Amram the pious one, ki have a mitzayin le bei Reish Galusa. So the servants of the Reish Galusa. The Reish Galusa was the leader of the Yidden in the times when the Yidden were in Bavel, and there were servants that were working there for the Reish Galusa that got out of hand. They thought that they have control over people, and they caused suffering for different people. So here they were causing problems for Rav Amram, that is. Have a magni le atloge. They had him sleep in places that was like on snow, or it doesn't necessarily mean literally on snow, but they had him sleep in a place which was cold, and he got sick from this. Now the next day, Amrulei, they came to serve him, and they say to Rav Chisda, what is it that you want we should bring you to eat? So Rav Chisda says to himself, Hani, these servants here, kol da minalu, whatever I'll tell them to bring me, they're going to bring me the exact opposite. They want to cause me to suffer. So therefore, amaluhu, so he wanted to be healed from this cold that he slept in. So he says to them, Bisra sumka gumri, bring me red meat on the coals, v'chamre mak, and diluted wine. So he knew they're going to bring the exact opposite, and that's what happened. Aisale inu. So these servants brought him bisra shmeina, fat meat, agumri on the coals, v'chamre chaya, and wine that's not diluted, and that was the healing that he needed after sleeping in the cold. Now Shoma Yalta, which was the wife of Rav Nachman, she's brought up in the Gemara many times. So Yalta, she was actually the daughter of the Reish Galusa, and she was a very, very prominent woman. And she heard about this, so she wanted to help Rab Amram be healed. She had him go into a bathhouse, and that he should sit in the water, and should be there in the water of the bathhouse, until the water, the color of the water of the bathhouse changed colors, and it was like blood. the reason why it became red like blood, because he drank so much of this wine and of this fat meat that it actually affected also the color from the sweat that came out of his body. The koi bisre pshite pshite, and his skin had these blotches on it, like round coins. Okay, and that's how he got healed from this. Now the Gemara brings about this from Ada Amiraim. Rav Yosef ve'asik berechaya. Rav Yosef would work in a mill. So Rashi here says that because when he became sick from a cold, so he wanted to heat up his body, so he worked in a mill. Rav Sheshes yasik v'kshuri, and Rav Sheshes worked in carrying beams to heat himself up. And Omar, he said, to work is very good, very healthy. Here you see exercise, and to work is very good because the one that does exercise, it heats up the one that does this. The Rambam actually brings from this Gemara that it's not only because they were sick, like Rashi's pshat, but this is b'chlal, that here you see great Amiraim work these difficult labors for a living, and because they wanted to work and do exercise on their own and not rely on anyone else supporting them. Now, here the Gemara brings a story. This story actually goes all the way down, pardon the next Amud, but I think we will finish off here with this story. Amalei Reish Galusa Rav Sheshes. The Reish Galusa, the head of the Yidden there in Bavel, said to Rav Sheshes, "My time aloi Saad Margabon. Why don't you come eat with us?" Amalei. So Rav Sheshes said, "Dulei Malo Avdi, because the servants that are working by you, I don't trust them. The Chashidi are Aver Menachai. I suspect them for serving not kosher. They serve Aver, a limb that was torn off from an animal when it's alive and it's not kosher." Amalei, mi yemer, who tells you this? How do you know? Amalei Rav Sheshes says, Hashler machvinulach. Here, I'll demonstrate this to you. So Amalei l'shamei, Rav Sheshes says to his servant, Zil genoiv aisili choder kare michiyusa. Go and take for me, Aver Menachai, go bring for me one, or actually not necessarily Aver Menachai. He said to them, go and bring for me one leg from the animal that they're preparing for me to eat. Okay, so take one leg away without them knowing. So then isolate. So his servant went and brought one leg from the animal that they were preparing for food. Amalahu. So now Rav Sheshes says to the servants of the Reish Galusa, Ahadmuli hadme dechiyusa. Bring me the animal that you're serving now today for the meal. So they brought the animal, and Aisu tlas kari, and there were only 3 legs that they served. Asiva kameh, and they put it down in front of Rav Sheshes. So Amalahu, Rav Sheshes said to the servants of the Reish Galusa, so balus shalish raglayim havai. Why, when you're serving here the animal for the meal today, are there only 3 legs here? What happened to the 4th leg? Now, where was that 4th leg? Rav Sheshes had already told his servant to take it away, so they didn't have it. So, but they were sort of embarrassed from Rav Sheshes. Where is the 4th leg? So what they did is pasuk aisichad malma. They went and they tore off a leg from another animal, and this was Avrim and Achai, and Isivu Kamei, and they brought it in front of Rav Sheshes, and they said to him, here's the 4th leg. Now, Amalei Lishamei, Isivu Nami Lahachti Doch. Now Rav Sheshes told his servant, bring the leg that you had stolen before and put it here down on the table. Oisva. And so he put down now the leg that he had stolen from before on the table, and now Amaluhu, he said to the servants, Hai bas chomish raglayim avai. This animal here had 5 legs. This is the leg that he had taken before from this animal. Where did you get this 5th leg from? And this was the Avim and Achai that they were serving. Okay, so Rav Sheshes demonstrated very clearly to the Reish Galusa that they're serving Avim and Achai. So Amalei, the Reish Galusa says to Rav Sheshes, okay, I see that you're right, but if so, lev the kamei shami demar, let them prepare the food in front of your servants and velechol. In other words, you bring your mashgiach. Let him see and make sure that everything that's preparing is kosher, and then you should come and eat with us. Amalei, so l'chaya. So Rav Sheshes says, okay, to life, sure, no problem. So what happened? Krivu taka kamayu. They brought a table of fruit in front of him. Now these servants of the Reish Galusa were upset at Rav Sheshes for what he did. He exposed them for the fact that they're serving not kosher food. So they wanted to get back at him. V'aisa kamei bisra. They brought meat in front of him. V'aisa kamei ristene the chanke. They brought in front of him a meat that had in it ristene the chanke chamsa, a meat that had a small piece of bone in it that could cause someone that cannot see to become blind, because he's not going to notice the bone that's in it. Not Rav Sheshes was blind. Okay, as we know in the Gemara, Rav Sheshes and Rav Yosef, Rav Sheshes was blind. So therefore they thought that here they're going to get back at Rav Sheshes, and he's going to choke on this piece of meat that has this bone in it. So Rav Sheshes, before he ate the food, he felt the meat in front of him, and he felt that it had a bone in it, so he didn't want to eat it. V'shakla karcha b'sudre, he just took it and wrapped it up in his handkerchief. and he didn't eat it. After they finished eating, Amri lay, so the servants of the Reish Galusa, so they said to the Reish Galusa, Igniv lang kisa de kaspe. Somebody stole a silver becher from us. Right? They wanted to expose Rav Sheshes to show that he didn't even eat the food that they served him. So Bahadi the Kamaini Vasti, they were looking around to see who stole this silver becher that they had said. Ashkechua bekrucha besudre, and they discovered what Rav Sheshes did, that he didn't even eat his food and he just wrapped it in a handkerchief. So Amri lay, so they said to Rav Sheshes, Chazima delay meichel kabai. You came here and you didn't even end up eating. All you came here is to make us painful. You made to make us problems. Look, you didn't even eat the food that we served you. Amalahu. I saw Rav Sheshes answer them and said, Anam meichel achli. I wanted to eat. But vitami and to taste it. In other words, I did taste it. Vitami beitaime the chivre, but I tasted that it had a taste of an animal that's not healthy. That has, Rashi says, a shchin on it. It has it's not. I didn't want to eat from this. Amri lei chivre le'avad lana idna. No, the animal that we prepared today does not have any of this shchin that you're complaining about. Amalahu. So he said to them, batku beduchte. You could go and check in the skin of the animal, and you'll see that this animal did have a problem. The Amar Rav Chisda said, Uchme b'chivre, that if there's black spots in the place in the animal where it has lighter skin, or b'chivre b'umchse, if it has white spots in the place of the skin where the skin of the animal is dark, lakusahi. So this is something that the animal is not healthy. Baduk, they went and inspected the animal, ashkachua, and they found exactly like Rav Sheshes said. So he was right, and therefore he didn't eat from this, besides the bone here, so he didn't eat from this animal. Still, there were these avodim wanted to get back at Rav Sheshes, they were still upset at him, so kikonofik, on his way out, kodole bira, they dug a pit in front of him, that he should fall into this pit. So again, Rav Sheshes was blind. V'shadilei tzipta ilave, they placed a mat on top of this pit that they dug, so he should walk right over it, and then he'll fall in. And they sort of led him in that direction, and they said, Leisimar Leinach, why don't you come here in this place and you can sit down here on this couch and relax. And they had him walk in that area. So he was walking, Rav Sheshes was about to go and walk into this pit. Rav Chisda was walking behind him, and Rav Chisda snorted. He made some sound that Rav Sheshes should know that something is fishy here. So Rav Sheshes stopped and he asked the child, Psukli psukecha, tell me a pasuk. Amalei, the child tells him, Nitelecha al yamincha, go either to your right or al smoilcha, or go to your left. So he understood that he can't go straight. Amalei l'shamai, so he tells, Rav Sheshes tells his servant, Ma'ika chazis, what do you see in front of you? Amalei, so his servant tells Rav Sheshes, Tzipisa the shadya, I see a mat that's thrown here on the floor. Amalei, so Rav Sheshes says to him, Hadimine, let's go on either on the right or on the left. So he was saved. After Rav Sheshes walked out, Rav Chisda said to Rav Sheshes, how did you know to save yourself not to fall into this pit? Rav Sheshes said, number one, you were behind me, you snorted, so I understood that I have to stop. Also, this child, he told me a pasuk and I understood to go to the right or the left. And third of all, every step I take here, I'm very careful. The chashidi avdi delay mahili, because the servants here in the house of the Reish Galusa, they're suspected and I can't trust them, so therefore I need to be careful.